Alrighty, hey folks, just a heads up. We recorded this forum before the Republican race got so spicy. So if you are listening to this after, Republicans nominated Clippy or a hedgehog or someone to run for Secretary of State to derail Diego, forgive me for not mentioning it. And if you're joining us after listening to my analysis episode, welcome. I think all the panelists did an amazing job of reflecting the way people are approaching this choice in NWI, and I'm grateful for their time and their work. Welcome to Bluer by the Lake, the podcast that explores region life through a blue lens. I'm your host, Tracy Martin, and we're here. The race that every Democrat in Indiana is talking about. I'm talking, of course, about Blythe Potter versus Bo Bai for Secretary of State. As all the state delegates get ready for the convention this June to make the decision about who we're going to put on the ticket to go up against Diego Morales, questions about both of these candidates are just flying around everywhere. It's getting super spicy. And because so many of you told me how helpful you found my coverage of the Lake County Sheriff's race, that I decided, why? We should just do this again for the Secretary of State. So I found 3 state delegates from the region to help us do just that. So you may recognize 2 of them right off the bat, Ulissa Cruz and Mary Bonema, who both graciously gave me pre- and post interviews for the Secretary of State Candidates Forum I recorded in March. My God, that was March? Good God, it feels like it's been 100 years since then. Okay, so anyway,
Yep.
Ulissa, let's start with you. Thank you for joining us. Please tell the good folks about you.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I do appreciate you you guys selecting me to speak on these matters. My name's Ulissa. I am 26 years old and I live in Hammond, Indiana. I have lived in Hammond my whole life, and I have been recently a whole lot more passionate with local government, and it's something that I've kind of gotten myself a lot into. I decided to run for delegate just because, well, I don't like the current Secretary of State. And so I started seeing, well, who elects them? And it's like, okay, delegates do. How do you become a delegate? And it was a surprisingly easy process. And so I was very happy about that. I was uncontested, so I will be going down to Indianapolis this June to select the Secretary of State, and I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to having you there. Mary,
Hi,
tell us all
I'm
about
Mary.
you.
Hi, I'm Mary Bonema. I am a resident in Griffith. I have lived in the region my whole life. So just like Ulissa, I've been here forever. I've been in Griffith for almost 20 years now. I have, and I'm not shy about saying this, I am what I would call a reformed Republican. I've been a Democrat for, you know, gee, I wonder what might have changed me. But so can't imagine what it was. But I basically at one point in time, I mean, we live in Indiana. Growing up conservative, like that's just how it was. And so as I've gotten older, I've done the exact opposite of what they say will happen. You'll get more conservative as you get older. I was like, no, I'm gonna get more liberal. I did the opposite. And I have just and it started in my 20s, and it's it just by now it's like this. And so to the point that like when I was quote unquote a Republican, I didn't get involved in races. I just went and voted in the presidential election. I never went to midterm voting. I wasn't really involved. Now that I've, kind of switched sides, it's a whole different ballgame. Like I went and canvassed in 24, and and I'll be doing it again. I'm actually probably going to be doing it with Scott this weekend, who's running for District 1 state senator. So Scott Holdison. So
Yes.
but yeah, I'm just more involved, and so then I decided I'm actually now my precinct chairperson and ran for the delegate as well. I didn't
that.
I was
Great.
I
That's
was
great.
not I was unopposed for both, so like it was like Ulissa said, it was really easy. Just sign a little paper and be like, "Hey, I'd like to get involved." And so the Griffith Dems have started up again, and we're meeting this week and everything. So it's nice, and we're really trying to get more involved. So it's lovely. So
Mary,
that's how it all
that's
started.
wonderful because I know the fact that Griffith's chapter has been so under involved for so long. You're taking that on?
Mike started all. You guys are gonna. Speaking of pet friendly here,
I told you. Hey, what's
just
the
gonna
kitty's name?
make that. This one is
Cameron.
She ran away. That one's
Okay.
Charlie, and if you saw her face, you'd understand why. She's got, like, a little mustache. Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. She'll
Alrighty, folks. Now, if you've lived in the region for any amount of time, I'm sure you know our third guest. I'm talking about the former First Lady Crown Point and NWI political activist Jessica Mitros. Jessica, tell us all about
Hey,
you.
I'm from Hammond. I grew up in Hessville, Ulissa. So
Mhm.
I've grown up with the toughest, then got married, and then we actually bought our first home in Crown Point. And I was at Purdue University getting another degree when the Democratic Precinct Organization came by to get me to ask me to run for mayor. And
Mhm.
I wasn't there. So my husband ran at that time, and he's no longer my husband, but I ran the campaign. And first time ever in the history of the universe that Crown Point ever had a Democratic mayor. And went on from there and actually
Wow.
flipped the city of Crown Point, which is now a Democratic stalwart. Secondly, flipped the state house because I was running state representative campaigns. And previous to that, I've got over 40 years experience in running political campaigns, finding candidates, because my father was president of IBEW 697, which is the largest union in not only the state of Indiana, but in the Midwest. And he took me out knocking on doors with him from the time I was 5 years old. So I love being a Democrat. I love the fact, Mary, that you're a born again Democrat. I love the fact that Lissa, you decided to get involved to make a change no matter how we feel about this candidate. Our hearts are in the right place. And this is what we do to make a difference in the lives of other people. And by golly, this is what democracy looks like.
Mhm.
Amen, sister.
Yep.
Mhm.
Alrighty. So my goal here is to provide an balanced forum for all of our panelists here to talk about both candidates openly and freely. I provided each of them with some very basic research, which included one thought leadership piece per candidate, lists to their website and their platforms, and a podcast. I'm sorry, I can't. Your cat. He's standing up on your chair and he's like standing on his haunches. I love
I know.
him.
She's ridiculous. Like, she just, this is why I don't have a nice chair too. She, like,
You know,
claws
dude.
at it. I'm
Yeah.
like, whatevs.
Okay.
I'll try to.
So, in terms of structure, I provided our panelists with very basic research, which I'll post in its entirety in the show notes so everybody can see exactly what I provided to the team. We have not discussed our opinions amongst ourselves, nor have I offered mine personally to anyone. Each of these women bring their very own perspective to the table. We're going to start with a quick overview of each candidate and discuss our initial impressions. Then we'll discuss each candidate across key issues folks are talking about. And then at the end, I'll invite our panelists to share if they've made a decision. And they can decide to reveal or not to reveal. It's up to you guys. All righty, guys. You ready to get started? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Woohoo! We'll dive in first to Blythe Potter, and I'm going to play some clips from the recording that I did of the Indivisible Secretary of State Forum back in March. So.
Democratic politics in Indiana. I'm from a very red county. I'm from Johnson County. This doesn't happen down there. So this is amazing. I am a mom. I have a 5-year-old. I have 2 stepdaughters. They're 19 and 22. They were 7 and 4 when I met them. I'm a small business owner, a salon and spa in Barkersville for the last 8 years. I have an MBA in conscious capitalism, which means we care about shareholders, we care about profits, but we also care about our employees, our environment, our communities. I'm actively involved in the Johnson County Democrats as a precinct chair, as a delegate in 2024 for the state and national conventions. And what got me out of this race is I'm hearing the same things from voters that I have felt for a long time. Representatives aren't listening to us. They don't listen to our phone calls and emails. They are not representing us. They're not representing our voices. And I ran for town council in 2023. And after the election, about 6 months after, I still had people asking me when the election was. I'm like, okay, we're sharing information. We're talking about this. How are people still not understanding this? And it's because the people like our county clerks, not all of them, but a lot of them in the Secretary of State's office are not sharing information about elections. It seems like the easiest way to increase our voter turnout is to market and advertise elections in some capacity, definitely with the Secretary of State's office, ideally in conjunction with our county clerks. And as a small business owner, I do a lot of marketing and advertising on a very small budget, so it seems pretty easy. And one of the ways I want to do that is by creating Indiana's first voter guidebook. Many other states have them. I want to have a digital version. I want to have a union printed handheld version. So everyone will have access to them if you're a registered voter. It can come to your address. You can opt out if you don't want a paper copy. That'll include everything you need to know about your upcoming elections. Where is your voting location? What are the hours? When does early voting start? Do you qualify for an absentee ballot? Who's on your ballot? What are the offices you're voting for these people? What do those offices do? And I'd really like to have a portion on these books where candidates can write a little bit of impartial, nonpartisan information that will have guidelines about what they want to do with the office. This not only informs voters, it helps get some of the money out of politics, and it helps our precinct chairs, helps our county parties, it helps our state party get out more information. We'll still be doing the work, but we'll do a little bit less work and we can focus on other things like getting more precinct chairs and helping candidates get out the vote. So I want to make sure, oh, what's that? So I have 1 minute left. Oh, I thought I had 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm sorry. You do. It goes really fast these days. There's so much happening. That's like a good time. Okay, we got on cruise control now. So hi, voter book. Other things that the Secretary of State's office oversees are the InBiz website, where small business owners, well, business owners in Indiana like myself, go and get their organization papers. I got my LLC in 2018 and spent $90, and then I got my certificate, and then I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Well, if you don't have someone that you can pay to tell you what to do next, you stumble it across yourself. So I'd like to not only update that website and all of the websites the Secretary of State's office oversees. This is a service job. I have been in the service industry in some capacity since I was 14 years old. This job should be serving our communities, serving the residents of Indiana. So you get your LLC, maybe you have some identifying questions afterwards that are optional. Give you some prompts. What county are you in? Are you in Johnson County? Are you in Bargersville? Well, if you're in Bargersville, you're going to have to go talk to the town council. Like get some paperwork close to a railroad. Things I had to find out on my own, which took me a lot longer to get my business opened than it probably would have had I had these resources. We can have resources for capital, maybe different grants and things for different demographics like women and veterans. I'm also a veteran. I spent 8 years in the military police corps. I was a bodyguard for General George Casey in Iraq in 2005. So I have leadership skills. I've done administrative work for over 20 years. And these websites, if an elder millennial like myself is not easily navigating them, we have a problem. I grew up without computers and cell phones. And if it's hard for me to figure things out, it's going to be hard for other people. I also want to update how we do in order for municipal elections. As a municipal candidate, everything is done on paper, like literal paper. You don't get to do it online. You can fill it out in a PDF, but it's still pretty cumbersome. And that seems like a barrier to entry for me. We need more, especially Democrats, maybe not as much in Lake County, but in other parts of the state, we need more Democrats to be able to get on your ballots. And having something that's online and easily accessible to fill out and just upload or send to your clerk would be a lot easier than paper. It will save time, it will save money, and it's also going to save resources. Other things I'd like to do, I want to do an independent audit of the Secretary of State's office. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of excitement happening in there the last 4 years. Shenanigans. We need to make it a little more boring again. And let's see what Diego's really been up to. We know what the headlines say, but what else has happened? What all did the Department of Justice really get? What happened with that data? Is that something we can even find out? The people who were impacted by the data that was given the Department of Justice last year, is there a way that we can help prevent this from happening again? Maybe we get with an organization like Delete Me or Syrian and have some credit monitoring offered for those registered voters who had their data just handed over. The state of Indiana also sells our data to the tune of about $12 million or so a year. I would like to put an end to that. If you are a small business owner or a resident in Indiana, your data should be held secure, especially by our government entities. It's a little bit of a mess right now, but don't worry. I'm a mom and a small business owner. I know how to clean up messes. This one will be okay. We also want to make sure that we're listening to non-voters. In 2022, when Diego was elected, 60% of voters decided not to show up. That wins elections up and down the ballot, no matter who you are. In 2024, 38% of our population didn't show up, and that was for a presidential election. I'm going to be speaking to Democrats. I've been speaking to Democrats. I've been to 63 counties so far of the 92. We're going to be talking to enlightened Republicans, independents, libertarians, but we need to be talking to non-voters. We need to be inviting these people into the process. We need to be sharing information with them. We need to make it more accessible for them to have their voices heard, because more than likely they feel a lot like a lot of us do. Like, my vote doesn't matter. They're not listening anyway. Why bother? So I think these ballot books could help with that as well. I'd also like to start a program for when kids turn 18, they get a welcome to voting book. Something nonpartisan and impartial gets delivered to their home address, information about how to register to vote, the benefits of voting, how you update voter registration, maybe even how you get involved in politics. Where are your local parties? Where are your local organizations? Just information for people to be civically engaged. The No Kings protests are one of my favorite things to go to. And we need to bring this No Kings energy with us along on this ride this year for this cycle. And I think our youth are really going to be harnessing that as well. So we need to make sure that they stay and to be doing this as part of their lifelong civic duty. A lot of us didn't start that. I started this when I was in my late 30s. We didn't talk politics growing up. I was a good Hoosier girl. We did not talk politics. We just pretended everything was okay. And I think that's part of what got us here. I'd also like to advertise our Hoosier Hall Pass. It is a program for 16 and 17-year-olds. They can get an excused day from school. They can go work the polls. They get paid. They have job training. They learn how safe and secure our elections actually are. Now I'm really down. And then when they go to vote, they'll know exactly what they're going to be doing because they did it before.
Okay, so folks, that is Blythe Potter. Now I'm going to go over her bona fides here. I couldn't figure out exactly when she announced the race, but she's been in it for quite a long time. She has her MBA in conscious capitalism. Her political experience, she served as a PC and had 2 municipal office runs. Her professional experience, she's a small business owner, Barkersville Wellness. Her military experience, 8 years in the military police corps. She deployed to provide security for George Casey in Iraq. And her platform highlights are focused on increasing civic engagement. She has a thought paper on this, modernizing state systems, fighting voter suppression, restoring ethics and transparency, ballot referendums, supporting small businesses, and stopping data sales. As in the video, she said that she had been to 70 counties, but that was in March. I did reach out to both candidates and ask them to provide some basics that I'm also going to be sharing as the interview progresses and online. She confirms that she has been to every county in Indiana now. Folks, what do we think of Blythe? Ulissa, kick us off.
I've basically known of Blythe for a while now. I want to say since the beginning of the year. In January, I believe she came to the Hammond Public Library, and she came to introduce herself. And I really liked her, but I was a bit skeptical because, well, it's a first impression, and who really knows them? But I did get an opportunity to see her multiple times at different places, and honestly, I do like how she presents herself and how she's campaigning for herself.
So, Mary?
So I have known of Blythe since the 2024 season, because she was running for, I think, state something at the time, and she just came up in my TikTok feed, and I liked her. She seems pretty genuine, and I like the platform she has. So that's my impression. I mean, she seems like a pretty genuine person, and
Now, Jessica, what about you?
There are many things, and I'll share this for our later discussions about her education and her background, that when we look at the Secretary of State's office, if you look at Diego, that's what I call him, Diego. If you look at Diego's experience, you'll see that he has a lot of qualified experience as our Secretary of State. He's just an idiot. I don't think he can help himself. I really, really don't, because it's like a lot of people that serve in our offices as we go higher up on the state platform. And I feel sorry for them. So I've had many discussions with him. So listen, it could be Mickey Mouse, and I would be thrilled that that would be who was running for office. But you're going to ask me to compare Bobai with Miss Potter, and there is no comparison. Maybe others will change my mind, but I seriously doubt it.
All right, well, let's stop there then. Hey, and we will then now turn to Bo. Let's watch his clip here.
Ranked toward the bottom, if not the last, in a lot of years in voter participation. And I think some of the blame for that justifiably lies at the Secretary of State's feet. So, how do we increase voter participation in our state? There's a few things that we can do. I voted in every Indiana election since I was 18, all but two of those. I voted early because you have family life, you got work responsibilities. It makes it easier to pick a time and place of your choosing to get to the polls and make your voice heard. Right now in the state legislature, they're trying to shorten our voting, which is exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing. Luckily, that effort is stalling, but I think we might have won the battle, not the war. So I will stand up to expand early voting access in our state. It's time in Indiana we end the straight ticket voting. It's been a scourge on our politics here. It's reinforced partisan voting tendencies. I can't tell you how many times I talked to someone out on the campaign trail, a Republican, and they say, "Oh, I didn't vote for Diego." I said, "Well, did you vote for a different company?" I did. And, well, I used for you. So I want to see an end to straight ticket voting. Two Republican state legislators introduced a bill during this legislative session to abolish straight ticket voting. So there's some appetite amongst Republicans to have tended to perform. It is time in Indiana, just like in Ohio, Florida, and Missouri, that we can citizen-led statewide ballot referendum. So what this would do is put the biggest issues of the day on the ballot, because I trust Hoosiers, I trust the people in this room, your families, to make those big decisions. Take the gerrymandering thing, for example. Overwhelmingly unpopular with the people of our state, but they tried to ram it through anyway. I trust us to make those big decisions. And if we do that, if we put the big issues on the ballot, that's going to motivate folks to get off their couch into the polling place, because they're going to feel like they have a real say in what's going on. So that's something I will advocate for at the state level. As Blythe mentioned, the office also handles business registrations and security. Maybe she didn't mention securities fraud. That's another facet of the office as well. I'm an attorney in my day job. I've helped entrepreneurs found businesses, filing LLC paperwork, some of the regulatory hurdles that Blythe was describing. I've helped business owners confront. I hope to bring some of that experience to this office. And I've also handled securities fraud investigations at the federal level. None of those things should be overly partisan. It doesn't matter what political party you're in. You can't tolerate fraud in our state. So I hope to bring some of my personal experience to those roles of this office. We could talk about policy all night, but beyond that, beyond the policy, I am sick and tired of the anger, of the divisiveness, and of the hatred that we have seen come to consume our politics. I mean, the other day, Todd Makita, the Attorney General of our state, put out an abject lie about me. An abject lie is denigrating my family, denigrating me personally. That has become the norm, unfortunately, in our politics. I'm sick and tired of it. We have to recognize, we have to support leaders who recognize that the things that we have in common are more important than any superficial difference we may have. That's the only path forward for our state and for our country. And I know that might sound naive. I'm online and I see this stuff. I'm subjected to it a lot. But I have seen a better way with my own eyes. I was in the United States Marine Corps. I was an infantry officer. I was in charge of a few hundred Marines. We came from every different walk of life, big cities, little towns. We did not vote the same. I mean, we had different politics. But at the end of the day, we came together to achieve a common mission that was more important than the letter in front of your name on the ballot. Defending your country, saving your brother and sister. That mission was more important than any political difference we had. Beyond the policy, I want to be the type of leader in state government that brings that type of ethos to our politics, bringing people together. Enough of the hatred, enough of the division. It's time for a brighter future here in India.
Bo Bye. He announced in October of 2026, he got his JD at Harvard Law. He does not have any political experience that I could find. His professional experience, he works as an attorney in Indianapolis. His military experience, he was a U.S. Marine. He rose to the rank of captain from an infantry officer, and he was deployed and among other things, deployed to support Ukraine and intelligence operations overseas. His platform highlights are on corruption and wasteful spending at the Secretary of State, secure and fair elections, ballot referendums, small business support, fighting taxes, and fighting partisan politics. So, Jessica, I'm guessing you've got some strong feelings. We're going to start with you.
Well, let me say something first to qualify. I don't care if you're a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican. Anytime anyone puts their name on a ballot, they have my respect. I may not like them, but they have my respect because you are always subjecting yourself to so much public recrimination, and it comes from both sides. And I'm not that kind of Democrat. So when I get ready to either run an election or to determine who I'm going to vote for, I do a lot of scrubbing. I learned that from James Carville when I was helpful in running the campaign for the presidency for Bill Clinton. So I learned from the best. That man's crazy. Just trust me, that man's crazy, but he knows his stuff. So
Oh, that sounds like we need to have another war stories episode.
I've known the Bai family from the time his father or grandfather was governor. In fact, when I was a little girl, because of my father, I used to go to his Senate office and he would bounce me on his lap while they would be talking about things that I still have no recollection of what they were talking about. So I've known Bai. I know his dad, Evan. He was very involved in our mayor's race when my husband at that time ran for office. And just know the family very well. Knew Susan, his mother, very, very well. So what I can tell you is that he's a young man who cares, and I don't ever use that word lightly, but he cares about people. He was born with his last name. We don't get to choose how we get our last names. You know what I know about the Bai last name? I know how easy it was for them to raise money when he ran for Secretary of State, when he ran for governor, and when he ended up as a senator in the same office that his father served in. So running for office is not just raising money, but it's also having a platform. And when you heard Bo Bai speaking, he was talking specifically what he wants to do with the office. And that could be because he has experience as it relates to administration of a public office. So I appreciate those skills that he has and others in greater detail.
Yeah, let's turn over to you, Mary. What were your thoughts?
So when I saw Bo, and I've seen other things, I've seen other information on him since March. I even at that time thought he was very, what is the word I want to use? He presented very well. Like he knew what he was talking about. He was concise. I just felt like he was very, like, I don't know how to explain it other than he sounded like a politician in a lot of ways is the best way to say it. Like,
By the
truthfully,
book.
right? Like, this is the Kennedys of Indiana in a little way. You know what I mean? In reality, the Bai family is. You know what I mean? It has gone generation after generation. It's a well-known name, but I liked him. I thought he was very personable.
Yulissa, what are your thoughts about him as a candidate?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, I'm young. I don't know his family legacy. Like I know like his dad and like grandfather, they like were in Indiana politics and whatnot, but I'm not very familiar since that was like years ago in the 80s, 90s, and
Girl,
I'm sorry
it's
to
okay.
you.
I
That's
know.
fine.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
so it's like I wasn't even alive.
I
No,
Oh my
know.
God.
you weren't. I was gonna
I'm
say
so sorry.
you're so young. You probably weren't even alive when his dad was even in the Senate, let alone the governor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
no,
agree with Mary.
but basically, so there's that. Like, I really didn't know like what his legacy was, but just hearing him out, he does present himself well. The only thing I didn't like was I felt like he spent most of his time criticizing his opponent, and like I have a big thing whenever I'm listening to someone give out their spiels and what they're representing. If it's mainly reactive communication, if it's mainly like just kind of like firing away at the opponent, it kind of makes me wonder, well, is that really all you have to offer? What kind of ideas do you have? And so that didn't really sit right with me because don't get me wrong, I also don't like him, but at the same time, it's we can't use that as leverage for like the whole whole platform. And there you have to have ideas too. And then I did see that he has accepted large amounts of money from some like Trump backed PACs. And it just kind of makes me wonder if he accepts these like large amounts of money, he's going to basically be held accountable towards them. So is he going to really represent the people or the people who's giving them these large amounts of money?
So let's dive then into the meat and the nitty gritty. Let's start with one of the bigger bugaboos. Most of the chatter online seems to have revolved around the idea of that one of these candidates is more electable than the other. Before we go into that, let's all caveat that we all know that Diego Morales is almost certainly going to be the Republican candidate. It is what it is. He's not going anywhere. He will run again. Nobody wants that. I mean, unless you are uh MAGA and like that.
Does anyone know if there are any other like Republicans running for that seat, or is he the only one?
I was
I
gonna ask the
don't
same thing.
know. I don't
Oh,
know. That's a good question.
Well, there's an independent right now. He's already jumped into the race who was a
Right.
former Republican. And then the Republicans are so terrified over Bo Bai winning that they've jumped someone else in.
Are you talking about the former mayor of Indianapolis?
Greg
Yes.
something.
Yeah. Because I saw him talking
Yeah.
at a forum that I tried to record and it didn't come out. Okay. So, but anyway, I believe it's likely that Diego Morales will be on the ticket and that whoever we choose at the convention this June will be going up against them. Some people
Mhm.
believe that Bo Bai is more electable. Some people believe that just as strenuously that Blythe Potter is more electable. So, Mary, let's leap off with you. Do you think one of these candidates is better suited than the other to take on Diego Morales?
Yulissa already alluded to the money, and the money and the electability kind of play hand in hand. We have to be realistic looking at that. We just saw in these primaries that the GOP funneled a crap ton of money into Indiana for a bunch of freaking primaries. It didn't turn out to have bringing in voters at the polls, but it absolutely voters that it did, it got them the wins they wanted. They unseated 5 incumbents because they spent $13 million in Podunk, Indiana on a bunch of primaries. So, unfortunately, in politics today, money's a big deal. And let's be honest, Blythe is trailing behind by a whole lot on Bo on the fundraising.
The electability piece does seem to be going hand in hand in all those discussions. I
Right.
asked both candidates to let me know how much they've currently raised and what
Okay.
their projections are and plans should they get the nomination. Here is what they said. Okay, so Blythe has raised nearly $300,000 to date. They will not take money from corporate PACs, corporate interests, MAGA billionaires, APAC, or lobbyists. And their projections is they're going to be transitioning to a scaled statewide general election operation with a projected fundraising goal of approximately 2 to 5 million by November. Bobai has raised 2. They are not making their fundraising plan or budget projections shared, but they are committing to raising the resources necessary to outcommunicate the Republican opponent, Diego Morales. So that's where the candidates chimed in on that. So, Mary,
I already think that Bo is more electable partly because of the financing. He's 10 times the amount of money already. The last time they had to report their money, I think he had double what Diego had already. And so that's a huge thing. I also think that the thing that some people are looking at as a bad thing, the legacy thing, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I think that's going to play a part. So personally, do I think that Bo is more electable? Yes.
well, Ulissa, let's jump to you since a lot of the divide here does seem to be a little bit generational. And there's a cohort of young voters that are adamant that Blythe Potter more reflects their values and is much more capable of swinging and energizing a younger voter base. Does that jive with your experience?
I believe Democrats need to stop choosing candidates based on who like fund the most money or who has the safest last name. I feel like we need to start choosing candidates based on who actually has real ideas, authentic commitment to our communities, and like a genuine vision for change. And that's something I feel like I sense with Blythe. However, I can understand why institutionally, financially, Bo would be more electable, but I'm just afraid that if he does get elected, I just don't really sense a change or a reform from him. I know the Indiana Secretary of State, they are only involved with so much. It's not like they can change the whole system, the whole government, but they can definitely start implementing small changes that can end up leading us to better government and even possibly better voter participation.
Right.
Yeah.
Jessica?
Here's what I know. I've run businesses before. And if you've never run a business, you're going to have a hard time equating what's going on with our election because guess what? We're the CEOs. We're going to be the ones that make this decision. That's why qualifications and qualities of life are very, very important. One issue that's very, very important is that as the CEO, just like we all are here, whomever I vote for, Lord willing, it'll be the person that I want to get in office because of their qualifications. I mean, we've read what I call their VTs. So we know Bo is a Harvard graduate. He has his law degree. He was on the Harvard Law Review as an editor. So he's already an attorney. In the Office of Secretary of State, they have 80 employees. And the things that I saw where Blythe does not have what I would call holistic knowledge of what occurs is that the things that she's looking to do, which are great, but they're already what a precinct committeeman does.
The secretary, they should be providing information and resources that the precinct committeemen can do. Just because
Oh,
precinct committeemen are
sure.
available for doing that work, it doesn't mean that the Secretary of State shouldn't be doing that kind of outreach.
Each with
Mary, do
that.
you guys believe that? Do you think that the Secretary of State should not be providing community engagement and voter outreach opportunities?
I
That's their
can
job.
feel
That should be the Secretary of State's job. Like it is to make sure that we as yes, as a committee person, it's my job to go knock on a door, but I am a Democrat committee person and there is a Republican one and we're not knocking on the same doors. And so the Secretary of State should be the place that nonpartisan information is coming from. Now, I as a secretary, it would be nice if our Secretary of State had like they're both saying, have a website that has nonpartisan information that I could as a committee person, share that website information. Like I had multiple friends reach out to me during this election and say, "Hey, is there an easy way for me to like get to who's all on the ballot and their basic information about what their platforms are, right?" And I'm like, "Nope, we ain't got none." But both people who are running for Secretary of State on the Democrat side want that because they want to see our voters in this state one engaged, and part of getting engaged is having that information to them.
Hmm.
And they both talked about that. They both talked about how it's important to get people engaged. We have the state of Indiana is one of the worst states in the country for voter turnout. They both talked about that.
Yes.
They both are
Yes.
running on that. Like and in the end, like when it comes right down to it, what they want to run on is so similar. It's kind of crazy how similar, but that's probably because it's a very democratic way of looking at things. Like we should make our voters feel empowered and it's a whole different world on the democratic side of things.
You look, do you feel like one of these candidates has better, more applicable direct experience for the role of Secretary of State?
So I do hear Jessica's point about how he has his law degree and I guess he has military experience.
Mhm.
And but I feel like Blythe also has schooling. It's not necessarily a law degree, but you don't necessarily need a law degree to run for that Secretary of State. And she does have education. She does have like 20 years of admin work. I just don't feel like Bobai has done enough of the, I guess, dirty work, the unglamorous work, which is like the admin work. And I feel like she has. When I see this, I feel like it's an interview. Who has like the hands-on experience? And I mainly see that from Blythe.
So, well, here's the thing that people are concerned about with Bo Bai. is that he is pursuing this position as training wheels that we are not going to have him for very long, and then the seat will be open very quickly. Jessica, what is your take on that?
Do I know what his hopes are and his dreams as it relates to what he wants to do? No, I don't know that about Blythe either. And I don't think either one of them are trying to do anything other than try to get Diego out of this office because he's horrible. He's horrible. There's comments that he wants to then be governor, but let me tell you something. You can't be governor if you don't win votes in the first place. You can't be governor if you don't run and secure the office of Secretary of State. So Indiana is weird because we are what we would call a managed state or a Republican state. We're ruby red. And just for someone to be able to win an office like this would be a big deal if they were a Democrat, whether that's for Blythe or for Bo. My issue is with qualifications because as I've shared, I've run companies before. I know what I'm looking for and those folks that, we're talking to about the office that they want to hold. I'm looking for an attorney in that position. Does that mean that Blythe can't do the job? No. If Bo doesn't win, I'm knocking on doors for Blythe because that's what we do when we come together as Democrats.
So, Mary, what about you? Do you?
I'm looking for somebody who I think cares about the office more than that.
Hmm.
Like, I don't think it needs to be a lawyer. I don't think it needs to be an administrator. I think that in the end, it needs to be somebody who has some ideas of what to do, and their ideas are in a line with what I would like to see the office do, right? And in the end, both of them have ideas that are there. As far as like it being a stepping stone, the reality is, if anybody wants to say, is this a stepping stone? The same thing can be said about Blythe. This is, as I said, I've known of Blythe because she was running for state office in 24 and she lost, right? And now she's running for a different state office. The reality is, if you're somebody who's getting into political offices, almost all of them have aspirations to move up to the next level, right? So we cannot hold it against and we can't hold it against a candidate because that may come about someday. Like every one of us, when we go into any job, there's very few people who go into a job and be like, hey, I want to live there forever. And I'm never, ever going to leave that position for
point.
as long as I can be
Yeah.
there. So we
That's
can't
a good
hold
point.
it against anybody, neither Blythe nor Bo. The reality is, and
It
I
is.
kind of disagree with you on this, Jessica. This is not a red state. This is a magenta state with a voter turnout problem. And it is a voter turnout problem because Republicans show up, and the ones that don't show up that are Republican, they don't show up because they're like, my dude's winning anyway. And Democrats don't show up because they're like, my dude's losing anyway. So what's the point? Like there's voter apathy on both sides of the aisle. And I'm more concerned with a candidate who's going to be running on those things. I want to know what are your plans for this position as long as you're going to have it, right? And obviously I know that if Blythe were to run and she were to win, yes, I think there's a chance she's more likely to stay the full 4 years, but I don't think Bo's going to leave in the 4 years. He's young. I could see him staying there for the 4 years and maybe then running for something, because in 4 years, that's when good old yay Banks is back
Yep.
up for Senate election. And I'm
Yeah.
cool with that.
Yep.
Like, if he uses this as his opportunity to then be like, hey, I'm running against Young, I'm okay with that. Like, I'd like to have any good candidate run against Banks. Just being
Oh my God.
I'm with
So,
you, Mary.
Melissa, what about you? Do you feel like either of these candidates is more suitable for the position?
Honestly, this is like a really tough question. From intuition, research, and meeting both of them and seeing what their body expressions is like, I feel like Blythe is pretty passionate about this, and I can see her actually taking this seriously, learning. She has this like go-getter attitude. I feel like I see it in her more than I see it in him. I'd rather lose with Blythe Potter and know we tried something real. We have to take a chance on like authentic leadership. and real ideas. He did say what he wanted to do, but it wasn't very concrete. It was just kind of like, yeah, get more, more voters out here. But she listed the steps of how to get there. Like she was pretty strategic, whereas I really didn't hear him. Like I feel like I kind of agree with Mary. He's like very political. Like it felt kind of scripted almost. I feel like if we were to like lose with Bo, like if Bo wins but then loses the actual November elections, we will always wonder if we ever actually had a chance because we didn't really inspire anybody. And like that's another thing. I feel like Blythe inspires a lot of people, especially with her grassroots. It's the reason why a lot of voters don't show up in the first place is because they believe everything is going to stay the same. It's going to stay stagnant. And it is. It is going to stay stagnant if we just keep choosing candidates who get the most money or who have like very popular last names, and we should give like people like a chance and see what kind of reform, what kind of change, what like we can like get from them. Blythe Potter represents that. If we keep nominating candidates that insiders and big donors feel comfortable with, then we'll never really rebuild the Democratic Party in Indiana.
So let's leap over to 0 hour. Jessica, would you like to share if either of these candidates have earned your vote?
Bo Bai has always had my vote. I tried to listen to Miss Potter, and every time I spoke to her, it was hurdle after hurdle. So, but I think that she's an up and coming. I just don't think she's ready for prime time.
All righty.
So honestly, I really like Blythe. Jessica, you kind of hit the nail on the head there a little bit with the Blythe is an up and coming. I don't think she's ready for statewide office. I think she needs to represent her area first, right? And get that chance to like get there. Personally, I think this election is extremely important. And Yulissa, how you were like, I'd rather see Blythe run and lose than to not see Blythe run. I want to be behind somebody who's going to win, and I don't have a question of whether or not they have the chance to win. And that's why I'm behind Bo, because he's got the financing. Yes, is his financing perfect? No. Do I wish that he would return some of the donations he's gotten from some of the people on his list? Absolutely. But the reality is there is no such thing as a perfect candidate, right? There is no
Right.
there
Yes.
is a faction of the Democratic Party that right now is looking at this as, well, if they're not perfect, I'm not going to vote for them. And a great example of that is 2024. The amount of Democrats who did not get out and vote for Kamala because she
Right.
didn't have the right attitude about certain things.
Right.
Or
Right.
part of getting Indiana changing is getting some Democrats into these higher profile positions like Secretary of State. I just think Bo has a much better chance. And even the polls
Mm.
are indicating that if Bo is on the ballot against Diego and Greg, Bo's winning because
Oh,
Greg
yeah.
is pulling people off of Diego.
Mhm.
That is not what's happening if Blythe wins. I would rather see somebody who's going to have a good chance of winning in November, because to me, that's the more important thing, is somebody who's a Democrat, especially because their ideas are truthfully, like when you listen to what each of them has for ideas, let's get more information out to our people. Let's get some information collecting on, have everybody give us their nonpartisan information, platform information. Let's get a website. They both have that. They both want to audit the Secretary of State. They both don't want the hiring of not true nepotism, because nepotism kind of is more the like immediate family, but Diego
Mm.
is not violating the nepotism rules because it's my brother-in-law kind of,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the laws are immediate family. Brother-in-law
Mhm.
is your immediate family too.
Yeah.
Sorry. But so, like I said, I'm behind Bo for that reason. It took me a minute to
Mm.
get to the point where I had made that decision, but it had a lot to do with, I really think it's really important that this position has a flip over in this election. And that's the most important thing to
Right.
me, because we're not going to change things overnight. It's still Indiana, guys.
Yeah.
It's still Indiana. Let's be honest. We're in this nice little bubble up here in Lake County where it's a
That's
little
right.
different than everywhere else in the state, but it's still Indiana. And we still got to contend
Well,
with all the 90 counties that aren't Marion and Lake.
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
Yulissa, what about you? Has anybody earned your vote? And do you want to share?
I have learned a lot of like useful information from Jessica, Mary, and well yourself, Tracy. I feel like I still would want to maybe talk to other people and get other people's thoughts as well, but I'm really leaning towards Blythe.
And why would that be?
She has her own business, so I know she's pro-business, helping new and emerging businesses, and I do appreciate that, but she really runs on the same politics that I guess I would lean more towards. I'm gonna vote for someone who has, like, those values, and I mean, even if, like, I guess she does lose, and I mean, I'll still be supporting. Oh,
Ladies, we have hashed this up and down and right and left. Everybody, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experience and for spending your time digging into this. I am really glad that we did this because we really did have a diversity of opinions. Hopefully everybody who's listening to this hears something that makes them think a little bit and helps them make an informed decision. If you're a state last, and I guess we're just going to see where the chips fall. And folks, if you see me there or at the lake first, come and say hi. But if not, all right, Godspeed. We'll see you there.